So let's talk about the journey of the modern Chief Information Security Officer. This role has completely transformed. It's gone from being a back-office tech job to a frontline strategic one. But that transformation, it is not a smooth ride. It's a trial by fire. It's a journey from being a constant firefighter to becoming the architect of resilience. And to really get it, we need to start by looking at the reality they're facing, day in and day out.
All right, let's kick things off with a number that should honestly keep every CISO in India's financial markets up at night: 68%. That's how many regulated companies, when SEBI, India's securities regulator, comes knocking, can't actually produce the evidence for their cybersecurity framework. I mean, they might say they have the controls, but they can't prove it.
And it's not just an internal battle, right? The battlefield is getting bigger. A staggering 82% of data breaches now have a third-party vendor somewhere in the attack chain. Your security is only as strong as your weakest supplier. And that supply chain, well, it is massive and incredibly complex.
Okay, so what about the people, the human element? A huge 91% of organizations can show you a spreadsheet of who attended security training, but they have zero proof, none, that the training actually changed how anyone behaves. It's basically just compliance theater, and trust me, the regulators are starting to see right through it.
So, what are the stakes here? Well, they have never, ever been higher. Under India's new Digital Personal Data Protection Act, one single security failure can now result in a penalty of up to 250 crore rupees. Now, that's the kind of number that makes the entire board snap to attention.
So with that as the backdrop, welcome to Part 1, the Fire Swamp. This is where the CISO's journey begins, trapped in this relentless, chaotic cycle of daily pressures. You're constantly reacting, never, ever getting ahead. This is the life of a firefighter.
Can you imagine trying to keep track of this? In India, CISOs have to monitor over 30, that's 30, cybersecurity directives popping up every single year. And they're coming from 5 different regulators: SEBI, RBI, CERT-In, IRDAI, and MEDI. It's just a constant flood, a regulatory deluge.
So how do most teams even try to handle this? Before? It's absolute chaos. We're talking ad hoc tracking in messy spreadsheets and endless email chains where things just inevitably fall through the cracks. But imagine this. What if there was a better way? A structured pipeline with clear stages, clear owners, and automated alerts. A system that turns all that chaos into a workflow you can actually manage.
And let's circle back to that 68% evidence gap for SEBI's framework. This isn't just some compliance checkbox we're talking about. It's a real crisis of confidence. The framework literally requires the CEO to personally sign off on a declaration of compliance. Now, how can they possibly sign that if their CISO can't give them the proof? And this right here, this quote just brings the whole problem into sharp focus. This is from a real CISO, and it's brutally honest. We had a 200-page BCP document. SEBI's inspection team asked for our last 3 recovery test results. We had none. The document was worthless without execution evidence. That just says it all, doesn't it? A plan without proof is just a worthless piece of paper.
Okay, so let's move on to Part 2 and see how this gets even more complicated. Because, as if that internal fire swamp wasn't bad enough, the battlefield itself is expanding. The threats are now growing way beyond the company's walls, in places the CISO can't even directly control.
This chart gets right to the heart of it. 82% of breaches involve a third party. The supply chain isn't just a risk anymore. It's become the main attack surface, the new front door for attackers. And for most companies, it's a massive, terrifying blind spot.
And then there's AI. Oh boy, everyone's racing to adopt it, right? But here's the scary part. 73% of organizations have no framework whatsoever to assess the new, incredibly complex risks that come with it. We're talking about 8 completely different security domains for AI, everything from data security to model integrity, and most companies are just flying completely blind.
Which brings us right back to people. For years, we've all been stuck in what I call the attendance trap. We measure if people showed up for training. That's an input metric. It's useless. The real question, the outcome we need to measure is this. Did their behavior actually change? Are they clicking on fewer phishing emails? Until you can measure that, your security awareness program is just wishful thinking.
This is where things get really tough. This leads to what I call the CISO's darkest hour. In Part 3, we have to look inward. After battling all those external fires, the CISO comes to the horrifying realization that the core internal processes, the very foundation of their security program, are completely broken.
This number is a total gut punch. 61% of vulnerability findings come back every single quarter. Just think about that for a second. You pay good money to find a vulnerability, you think your team has fixed it, and then it just comes right back. This isn't a problem with your testing, it's a fundamental breakdown in how you track things to closure.
And what about ISO 27001, our bedrock security standard? Well, we see the same 5 failure patterns in audits over and over again. The statement of applicability doesn't match the risk assessment, there's no evidence for implementation, nobody understands the scope. It all points to a process that is fundamentally broken, not just a few missed details.
And this right here, this is the huge gap between being reactive and being proactive. There are systematic processes out there, like the 7 stages of PASTA threat modeling, designed to find flaws before they become vulnerabilities. Yet a shocking 85% of organizations don't use any kind of structured threat modeling. They're literally waiting for the house to be on fire instead of building it with fireproof materials in the first place.
And this is the lowest point, the most critical failure of them all. An 81% evidence deficiency in business continuity and disaster recovery. We're talking about the plan that's supposed to save the entire company when everything else has failed. And for 4 out of 5 organizations, it's basically a house of cards, with plans that have never, ever been proven to work.
Okay, so that's a lot of bad news. It's a tough spot to be in. But you can't stay there, right? You have to find a way out. And that's what Part 4 is about. It introduces the practitioner's path. This is not about buying another shiny magic security box. It's about a fundamental shift in how you think, from reactive fire drills to systematic, evidence-based operations.
And this is the central idea. The Practitioner Toolkit, now this isn't some product you can just go buy off a shelf. It's a systematic approach. It's a whole new mindset. It's all about building processes and systems that turn the utter chaos of security and compliance into a continuous, predictable, and, most importantly, an evidence-based operational output.
And this is where it all comes together. Let's connect the dots. Remember all that pain we talked about? The 61% of VAPT findings that keep coming back? That gets solved with a systematic VAPT Findings Register. The 82% third-party breach rate? You tackle that with a structured vendor risk assessment process. That terrifying 81% BCP failure? An evidence-based BCP/DR posture assessment. You see the pattern? For every systemic pain, there is a corresponding systematic solution.
So, this is the question we have to leave you with. Is your CISO a firefighter, running around forever reacting to the next blaze? Or are they a strategic architect, carefully building a resilient structure that's designed to withstand pressure?